So, um, when the news broke that Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban were ending their 19-year marriage, I think everyone sort of braced themselves, right?
No, absolutely. You're talking about a massive combined empire, what, over $325 million. Hollywood A-list meets Nashville megastar.
Yeah, exactly. And history tells us a split like that, it usually gets very public, very messy.
It's typically a spectacle.
Yeah.
Costly, drawn-out fights over assets, statements flying back and forth, just chaos.
But, well, when we actually dug into the sources, the court filings, it wasn't a war. Not at all.
It really wasn't. It was almost clinical, like watching legal architecture in motion.
This wasn't about revenge, like the headlines might imply. It felt more like a masterclass in controlled separation. They really fought for peace, it seems, by just executing a plan they probably had for years.
That's a great way to put it. And what's so fascinating, I think, is the victory here wasn't about winning in court. It was about strategically avoiding court almost entirely. Every single piece of this was engineered to be quiet, private, efficient.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Our mission for you, listening, is really to pull out those strategic moves, the mechanisms they used in this huge high net worth separation.
Yeah, how did their lawyers manage to turn what should have been this brutal public fight into just a series of smooth private transactions?
It really shows how deliberate every single step was.
Right, because the actual documents filed in Davidson County, they felt like the final seal of approval on a deal that was locked down months before.
Just the press release, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. The press release for a deal already done and dusted.
Okay, let's start with the timeline, because that's the first big clue, isn't it?
Yeah.
The official separation date listed in the court documents, September 30th, 2025.
Which was the exact same day the divorce papers were actually filed.
Exactly. But then you have all the reports, TMZ, people, the usual suspects saying they've been physically separated, living apart since early in the summer.
That's a gap of several months between the reality on the ground and the legal paperwork.
So you mentioned this idea of a private negotiation window, but wasn't that incredibly risky? I mean, what if one of them went public, said something negative, or started moving assets around during those summer months before the official date?
Well, it would be risky without the right framework. But that risk was likely calculated, maybe even neutralized by their existing legal setup, presumably that strong prenup everyone talks about.
Okay.
Because that separation date, legally, it's critical. It's the cutoff point for finances. Any money earned, any asset bought after that date, that's separate property. It doesn't go into the marital pot for division.
Right.
So by setting the legal separation date as the filing date, September 30th, they created this perfectly clean, unambiguous financial line in the sand. No arguments about who earned what during that summer separation.
So those months apart weren't just like a cooling off thing. They were active private negotiation phase.
Precisely. They used that time away from the media glare and court deadlines to finalize everything. The messy stuff, the emotional decisions, all hammered out privately.
And then they just walked into court with the finished package.
Yeah.
A fait accompli, as you said.
Exactly. It prevents leaks during negotiations, stops public arguments before they start. Very smart PR control, too.
And even the grounds for divorce played into this, right? Irreconcilable differences, super standard, no-fault language.
Yeah, and that choice was deliberate. Not just no fault, but no drama. Using that bland, standard phrase keeps the specific personal reasons completely sealed, off the public record. If they'd chosen fault-based grounds, they would have had to detail personal issues, complaints.
Which would have become public fodder immediately.
Instantly. Their priority was clearly sealing that personal narrative tight.
So, connecting this to the bigger picture, that date discrepancy, the September 30th thing, it's not a mistake. It's solid evidence.
Evidence of a really sophisticated strategy. It wasn't just about filing for divorce. It was about executing a pre-planned corporate dissolution.
Okay, so the money side seems incredibly controlled. But what about the kids? That's always the emotional flashpoint, isn't it?
It is. And here, their strategy shifted slightly because, interestingly, they did file the permanent parenting plan publicly.
Which seems counterintuitive at first, given the focus on privacy.
Right. But I think it was a really shrewd move for controlling the narrative. By putting the details about their daughter's welfare out there front and center.
They answered the biggest questions before anyone could really ask them in a negative way.
Exactly. It shifted the focus immediately from, say, messy finances or potential conflict onto responsible co-parenting. Very positive framing.
Let's look at the details of that plan.
Yeah.
The physical custody, that 3 and 659 days split. Kidman gets designated the primary residential parent, 306 days. Urban gets 59 days, basically every other weekend, alternating holidays.
Now, on paper, that looks heavily weighted towards Kidman, and it is, but you have to factor in the practical reality here.
Urban's career.
His career. He's a global touring musician, a strict 50-50 physical custody arrangement, probably just not feasible or stable for teenage girls with his schedule.
So the arrangement reflects their actual lives, their working structure.
It seems to. It acknowledges they aren't a standard 9-to-5 family. It's built around these demanding global careers.
And again, the timing shows this wasn't a last-minute scramble. The court docs show Urban signed off on August 29th. Kidman signed September 6th.
Weeks before the public filing on the 30th. They didn't wait until the 11th hour to sort out their kids' lives. It was locked down early.
The plan also included some really specific rules, didn't it?
Yes, very clear rules of engagement. There's that mandatory no bad-mouthing clause, for instance.
Which is crucial.
Crucial, and it goes further, requiring both parents to actively foster love and respect for the other parent. That detail just screams foresight. It's about preventing that subtle, passive-aggressive stuff that can happen through kids.
Okay, but here's the part I found really fascinating. The tiebreaker clause.
Ah, yes. That's significant.
Major decisions, schools, doctors, that kind of thing are meant to be joint. But, and this is the kicker, if they disagree, Nicole Kidman shall have final decision-making authority.
That is huge. Legally, it means while Urban has the right to be consulted, to have input, Kidman holds the ultimate veto power.
It sounds less like typical co-parenting and more like pre-approved operational control.
It does lean that way, and the strategic genius of that clause is that it shuts down future litigation over those big, high-stakes decisions. No dragging the kids through court battles about schools or medical choices down the line.
It's like they said, okay, we know disagreements might happen here, here, and here, so let's build the resolution mechanism into the original contract.
Exactly. It guarantees peace by removing the legal venue for future arguments on those key points.
Which brings us back, inevitably, to the money, the big question. How does a couple married 19 years with this reported $175 million gap in their net worth, $250 million for her, $75 million for him, avoid any public fight over finances?
Well, the short answer is that fight was probably won, or rather neutralized, nearly 2 decades ago.
With the prenup.
With a meticulously drafted, almost certainly ironclad prenuptial agreement. That document is the bedrock governing this whole dissolution.
And the strongest piece of evidence for that is the mutual waiver of spousal support, right?
Yeah.
Alimony.
Absolutely. Despite the long marriage, despite that huge disparity in reported wealth, neither one is paying the other alimony.
Which, under Tennessee law, without a prenup.
Without a strong prenup, legal experts are pretty clear. Given the marriage length, Kidman would almost certainly have been on the hook for substantial, ongoing support payments to Urban.
So that waiver just eliminates a massive potential conflict point right off the bat.
Completely takes it off the table. But the child support handling is also really interesting, and it serves that same goal of a total clean break.
You mean the lump sum payment?
Yes. The provision stating Keith Urban already prepaid all child support obligations in a single lump sum. That's highly unusual.
Covering everything until the kids finish high school. Tuition, nannies, activities.
Everything specified, apparently. It's genius not just for simplifying things, but because it severs the very last ongoing financial tie between them. No monthly checks changing hands, no potential disputes over reimbursements or expenses, just done.
Wow. That really is the ultimate financial clean slate. Okay, but we have to tackle that statement in the court documents, the one that says there are no assets owned by them either jointly or individually.
Right. Which sounds impossible for a couple worth hundreds of millions.
Yeah, how does that work?
It's not a lie or a contradiction. It's actually the key to the whole financial fortress. It means their vast portfolio, real estate, investments, intellectual property, all of it wasn't held in their individual names or joint names.
It was all in.
Entities.
Exactly. Held within a complex structure of separate trusts, limited liability companies, and order of other entities.
Okay, so explain this for us. Why does using an LLC or a trust protect assets better in a divorce than just listing them in the prenup? What's the aha moment here?
Okay, think of it like this. These entities are like separate locked boxes. If you own a house directly in your name, the divorce court looks at the house and divides it.
But if the house is owned by an LLC that you happen to own shares in, the divorce court doesn't technically divide the house itself. It divides the ownership shares of the LLC.
Oh. And dividing shares is different.
It's a much cleaner, more private transaction, often governed by the rules already set up within the LLC's operating agreement, or the trust documents rules likely align with the prenup from the start.
So it keeps the specifics, like which of their, 4 Nashville homes went to whom completely out of the public divorce file?
Precisely. The division happens privately, according to pre-agreed corporate or trust rules,
Okay.
not messily in open court. Their legal relationship, financially, was structured like a corporate partnership with a very clear dissolution plan built in from day one.
And look, we can't really ignore all that media speculation over the years about highly personalized clauses in their original agreement, like that rumored cocaine clause.
The one reportedly tying sobriety to payments, like $600,000 for every sober year for Urban.
Now, that specific clause wasn't confirmed in these filings, obviously.
No, it wasn't. But whether it's true or not, it perfectly illustrates just how customized these high-level prenups can be. They don't just address asset splits. They can cover behavior, lifestyle choices, health.
Building in financial consequences or incentives.
Exactly. It shows the level of anticipation, planning for life's potential challenges, all within that binding financial contract they signed before they even got married. #tag conclusion and key takeaways. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, what we've uncovered here isn't really a messy divorce. It's more like the quiet, planned demolition of a $325 million corporate structure.
Managed entirely by strategy and foresight.
Yeah, it's almost a textbook example of how high net worth dissolution can happen, completely devoid of conflict if planned meticulously enough.
So if we boil it down, the success really rested on 3 main pillars of control, didn't it?
I think so. Killer one has to be that proactive legal architecture.
The prenup, the trusts, the LLCs.
Exactly. Setting things up from the start so their wealth never truly commingled in a way the court could easily divide later, preventing the problem before it starts.
Okay, pillar 2.
Private pre-filing negotiation. Using that crucial summer window between the physical split and the legal filing to resolve everything privately.
Hammering out the parenting plan, the final financial details, presenting the court with that finished deal. No room for media leaks or mid-negotiation drama.
Right. And pillar 3 would be strategic public disclosure.
Making calculated choices about what to make public.
Precisely. Filing the amicable parenting plan publicly to shape that positive narrative about co-parenting and responsibility.
While keeping every single financial detail shielded behind those private trusts and LLCs, invisible to the public eye. So what does this all mean for you listening to this? The main lesson here isn't really about divorce itself. It's about preparation.
Absolutely. This case is proof that controlling the narrative, protecting assets, dictating the outcome, it all starts years, maybe even decades before any papers are filed.
It's about planning versus reacting.
The entire outcome, the lack of drama, it was basically predetermined by the agreements they made long ago. The quietness is the story.
Which leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? It really makes you wonder how many other celebrity splits that look amicable on the surface are actually just the quiet, efficient execution of a super detailed, meticulously planned corporate contract signed years before.
And maybe what would it cost to get the legal team who drafted that original contract?
A provocative thought indeed. On the real price of guaranteed peace and privacy. You've been listening to The Deep Dive. We dig into the legal, financial, and strategic blueprints shaping the stories you hear about. Thanks for tuning in.
And yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you want more deep dives like this one.